How could a single photograph unravel a lifetime of carefully stitched illusions? The wedding album lies open on Aunt Maxine's coffee table, a glossy testament to a truth I wasn't meant to see. I'm Elise Hartman, a marketing executive who spent years carving a place in a family that barely acknowledges my shadow. My fingers tingle with numbness as I stare at my brother Nolan, grinning beside his new bride in photos from a wedding I was supposed to attend tomorrow. The invitation in my purse, with its elegant calligraphy and gold embossing, promised June 15th, a date I cleared my schedule for. A day I spent weeks preparing for, with the perfect dress and gift. Yet here, in Aunt Maxine's living room, the album screams that the wedding was last weekend. My family sent me the wrong date, on purpose. The betrayal cuts deeper than I expect, a blade slicing through years of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see me. The crystal frame I'd brought as a gift slips from my hands, shattering across the hardwood floor, shards catching the afternoon sun streaming through the bay windows. The sound echoes the fracture inside me. "Elise, honey, I thought you knew," Aunt Maxine says, her voice thick with guilt, not just pity. She stands behind me, wringing her hands, her turquoise rings glinting. I shake my head, my voice sounding distant, like it belongs to someone else. "That's not possible. I have the invitation right here." I fumble with my purse, pulling out the cream envelope. "Look, June 15th. Tomorrow." Aunt Maxine takes it with trembling hands, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Oh, Elise," she whispers, her voice breaking. "They sent you the wrong date, on purpose." The room tilts slightly, and I grip the table's edge. I'd taken a day off, scoured stores for a dress that said I belonged, practiced small talk to navigate family members who look through me. All for nothing. "Your mother." Aunt Maxine hesitates, then squares her shoulders. "They decided it'd be easier if you weren't there." The words land like a physical blow. I see myself 2 months ago at the family dinner, Nolan announcing his engagement, his eyes skipping over me as I smiled and offered congratulations. I'd driven to 3 stores that weekend, searching for a dress, elegant, not showy. The saleswoman had remarked on my glowing smile, unaware of the hope fueling it. Now, kneeling to gather the broken crystal, I shake off Aunt Maxine's offer to help. "Let me," I say, my voice steadier than my trembling hands. The shards bite my fingers, but I don't flinch. "They've always treated me like I'm invisible," I say, meeting her tearful gaze. Now they've made it official. Something shifts inside me, a tectonic plate breaking free after years of pressure. I've spent my life trying to earn a place in this family, funneling thousands through my holding company to save their lake cottage from foreclosure, covering Nolan's business failures, all while they dismissed my successes. Aunt Maxine touches my arm, her papery skin cool. "Some people can't see what's right in front of them, Elise. Not won't. Can't." The realization settles. No achievement, no sacrifice will make them value me. I wrap the broken crystal in the gift paper, its festive pattern now a mockery. The album's smiling faces, celebrating without me, confirm my absence was planned long before this wedding. I decide then, I'll show them who I am. I won't be invisible anymore. The next morning, my palms sweat against the steering wheel as I pull into my parents' circular driveway. Their Tudor-style home looms, its manicured hedges and gleaming windows hiding the betrayal within. I kill the engine but stay seated, watching through the bay window as they lounge in the living room, surrounded by wedding photos. My mother's laugh floats out, delicate and tinkling, a sound I've spent decades chasing. My father leans back in his recliner, relaxed in a way I rarely see. Nolan stands by the mantel, holding a wedding portrait, his voice clear across the lawn. "Best decision we made was making sure she wasn't there to ruin everything." Nausea rises, my knuckles whitening against the door frame. They flip through the album, oblivious to me standing in their entryway, a ghost in their perfect narrative. The living room smells of lavender candles and polished wood, a familiar stage for family gatherings where I've always been an understudy, never the star. I step inside, my heels clicking on the hardwood, and my mother's champagne glass vanishes behind a silver-framed photo with practiced subtlety. "Elise," she says, not a greeting, but an acknowledgement of an intrusion. Nolan doesn't look up from the album, his shoulders relaxed in a way that screams entitlement. My father, slouched in his leather recliner, Studies his hands as if they hold answers I'll never deserve. The wedding was last weekend, I say, my voice steadier than the tremor in my chest. You sent me the wrong date, on purpose. Nolan's eyes finally meet mine, cold and unapologetic. I needed one perfect day without you, he says, the simplicity of his words slicing deeper than any argument could. My mother adjusts her pearl necklace, a nervous tic from my childhood. You've always disrupted our peace, Elise. Can't you understand we needed one occasion without your intensity? The air feels thick, pressing against my skin. I step closer, noting how they occupy the comfortable seats while I stand, a physical echo of our family dynamic. I've put thousands into the lake cottage repairs through my holding company, I say, the statement hanging between us like a guillotine. Did you think I wouldn't find out you've been telling everyone it's still yours? My mother waves a hand, dismissive. That's what successful children do, Elise. They help their parents. It's your obligation, playing with your little marketing spreadsheets while we have real careers. Nolan smirks, tossing the album onto the coffee table. Dad built something tangible. I create architectural visions. What do you make besides money? My father remains silent, his eyes still on his hands, his cowardice louder than words. Their dismissal crystallizes a truth I've dodged for years. I'm not a daughter or sister to them, but a resource, an ATM with inconvenient emotions. I catch my reflection in the ornate mirror above the fireplace, my shoulders curved inward, head tilted in apology. How long have I made myself smaller to fit their frame? I open my purse, retrieving a slim folder from my home office. Let me explain something, I say, my voice gaining edge. I have documentation of every dollar spent on that cottage, every repair, every tax bill. My mother's eyes narrow, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. And most importantly, my name is on the deed. Sole owner. I place the document on the table. You signed over your half to my company 3 years ago when Nolan needed capital for his failing restaurant. My father's head snaps up, confusion warring with comprehension. You're welcome to contest it, I continue, but the paperwork is thorough. Jenna made sure of that. Jenna? Our Jenna Morales? My mother's voice rises, her composure cracking. My attorney now, I correct. For the past 5 years, the room feels smaller, their shock palpable. I've spent years believing if I helped enough, achieved enough, they'd see me. Now, standing in their perfectly curated living room, I see the futility of that hope. They've never wanted me here. Not at dinners, not at holidays, not at Nolan's wedding. My mother's pearls gleam under the chandelier, a symbol of her curated life where I'm an afterthought. You can't just rewrite history, she says, but her voice lacks conviction. I don't respond, letting the silence speak. My father clutches the armrests, his knuckles pale. Nolan leans forward, his smirk gone, replaced by a flicker of unease. As I walk to my car, the gravel crunching underfoot, my hands tremble, but my steps are steady. Should I cut all financial ties immediately, or ease them out to soften the blow? The temptation for swift justice burns. But would that make me as callous as they've been? The engine purrs to life, calming my racing heart. For the first time since that lying invitation arrived, I feel a flicker of peace. Maybe the real wedding isn't Nolan's, but my own. Marrying the woman I am to the one I'm capable of becoming. I drive away, the Tudor house shrinking in my rearview mirror, its gleaming facade no longer my anchor. My phone buzzes. Another cousin, probably fed my mother's version of events. I let it ring, the sound fading into the hum of the road. That same day, my phone buzzes for the 5th time in an hour, the vibration insistent against the passenger seat. Another cousin, one I haven't spoken to since last Thanksgiving, suddenly feigning concern for my mental health. Mother's network is efficient, spinning her narrative before I've even processed mine. I answer this one, Uncle Robert's voice crackling through the speaker. Elise, honey, we're worried about you. Your mother says you've been making some wild accusations. I press my fingertips to my temple, the highway blurring past. Did she mention they sent me a fake wedding invitation? The pause stretches, telling. Well, there must be some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Uncle Robert. They didn't want me there, so they lied about the date. After hanging up, I pull over at a rest stop, the engine ticking as it cools. The weight of the confrontation settles. My family's shock replaying in my mind, the way Mother's hand froze on her pearls. Father's confusion turning to denial, Nolan's smirk evaporating like mist. Back home, I open my laptop, fingers hovering over the keys. Nolan has posted wedding photos online, the images popping up in my feed like unwelcome guests. Surrounded by everyone who matters. The caption reads beneath a shot of our parents flanking the couple, their smiles wide and untroubled. My absence glares from every frame, a void they filled seamlessly. I scroll through, heart aching at the familiar faces, cousins laughing, aunts toasting, none questioning where I am. The final blow arrives in the mail that afternoon, a formal letter on Dad's business stationery, demanding the return of the lake cottage to its rightful owners. As if I'd stolen it rather than saved it from the bank's grasp. I trace the embossed letterhead, the paper crisp under my fingers. They still don't grasp the reality I laid out. The documents proving my ownership through the transfer they signed in desperation. Night after night, I lie awake, old photographs spread across my bedspread like scattered puzzle pieces that never quite fit. The smiling faces mock my naivety. Had I imagined the happy moments, the fleeting connections? The loneliness presses heavy on my chest, stripped of even the pretense of family bonds. In a weak moment at 3 a.m, I reach for my phone, thumb hovering over Mother's number. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe one apology could mend it. But whose peace would that restore? Not mine. Instead, I boot up my laptop and start documenting every check for Nolan's failures, every transfer for cottage taxes, every unpaid loan. The spreadsheet grows, rows of numbers building a wall between us, each entry a reminder of my misplaced generosity. Tuesday afternoon, a knock interrupts my focus at the office. Aunt Maxine stands in the doorway, holding 2 paper bags from my favorite deli, the aroma of fresh sandwiches cutting through the sterile air. "Thought you might be skipping lunch," she says, placing one on my desk. Her hand rests on my shoulder, turquoise rings catching the fluorescent light. "I'm proud of you for standing up. It's about time someone in this family showed courage." The touch nearly undoes me, a rare warmth in the chill of recent days. My assistant's voice crackles over the intercom. "Miss Hartman, your parents are in the lobby. They don't have an appointment." Aunt Maxine squeezes my shoulder. "Want me to stay?" I straighten, spine aligning with resolve. "No, I need to handle this myself." When they enter, Mother produces tears on cue, mascara intact. "How could you abandon your family? We've always been there for you." Father stands rigid, his usual authority diminished. "The cottage has been in our family for generations. You have no right." They loom while I sit behind my desk, no longer rising for them. "That cottage hasn't been yours for years," I say, voice steady. "You sold your half to my company when Nolan's restaurant failed." Mother's tears dry up. "We did no such thing." I pull the document from my drawer. "Your signature, Mother, April 2018. Father steps forward. "We assumed once things turned around. You assumed I'd give it back without question, or keep funding you while being excluded." The words flow freely now. "I'm not your bank. I'm done." For the first time, Mother looks at me with fear, not disappointment. Jenna strides in then, briefcase in hand, her presence commanding. "Mr. and Mrs. Hartman, I believe our meeting is over." She gestures to the door. "This is family business," Mother hisses, "which is why Miss Morales, my attorney, is handling it," I reply. "All communication through her." As Jenna escorts them out, Father glances back, confusion etched deep. When she returns, documents in tow, ready to make this official, I sign each one, my signature bold. The legal notice for 30 days to vacate the cottage feels like freedom. "Your mother's signature on the sale is ironclad," Jenna says. "No legal leg to stand on." My phone lights up. Nolan calling for the first time in years. I let it ring, watching the screen dim. The next day, documents spread across Thomas Bedford's polished mahogany desk like a map of my liberation. I sign each one with deliberate strokes, the pen gliding smoother than expected, my signature evolving from tentative loops to confident lines. Joint accounts closed. Co-signed loans transferred. Investment portfolios separated. Thomas checks items off his list, his voice steady like a conductor guiding a symphony through chaos. "Perfect timing," he says, glancing at his watch. "Your parents should be at their country club luncheon now." I picture them, Mother ordering her second gin and tonic, Father nodding at some retired executive's monologue. Their predictable routine, once a source of envy, now my advantage. What about the restraining order? I ask, sliding the last form over. Thomas adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses. Judge Harriman reviews it this afternoon. The documentation is solid. Workplace harassment has precedent. I think of their unannounced visits, the whispers rippling through my colleagues, the scenes in the lobby that chipped at my professional facade. My phone vibrates then, not Aunt Maxine as I expect, but the building security number. Miss Hartman? There's a situation in the lobby. Your brother is demanding to see you. Thomas points to the speakerphone, and I press it. Is he creating a disturbance? Yes, ma'am. Insistent about financial matters. Thomas scribbles a note. This strengthens the case. I'm not coming down, I say calmly. Follow protocols for unauthorized visitors. 15 minutes later, another call, an unfamiliar number. Elise, it's Kendra, Nolan's wife. Her voice wavers, hesitant. I close my eyes, bracing for venom. I'm outside your building. I saw everything, how he acted in the lobby. I had no idea he could be like that. Through the window, I spot her by the fountain, shoulders hunched against the breeze, her diamond ring catching sunlight. 3 weeks married and already glimpsing the cracks. He told me you refused to help with the wedding, that you were jealous, she continues, voice cracking. But that wasn't true, was it? You never knew the date. The admission lingers. A bridge I didn't expect. Why tell me this? I ask as Thomas steps out for privacy, because I recognize that look on his face. It's the same my father had when he threatened my mother. I'm not waiting 30 years to face it. Kendra's words stir something, a mix of pity and caution. Tied to Nolan, could she be an ally or another trap? I watch her brush hair from her face, the wind carrying faint echoes of city traffic. Part of me wants to invite her up to share the weight, but boundaries are new armor I'm still forging. Thank you for calling, I say finally. But I need time. She nods, though she can't see me, and hangs up, walking away with measured steps. Aunt Maxine arrives later that afternoon, carrying a worn leather briefcase I've never seen. I've kept these for years, she says, laying out folders of emails, texts, and financial records spanning a decade. Your mother never deleted anything, thought she'd need leverage someday. I flip through. Need money for Nolan's venture. Elise won't mind co-signing. Tell Elise the cottage repairs are minimal, no need to mention foundation issues. She's coming for Thanksgiving. Hide the new boat. Each line hits like a stone, revealing systematic exploitation. Jenna arrives midway through the second folder, scanning documents with a hardening expression. This bolsters our position on the cottage, she says, selecting emails. The judge will see the pattern. Thomas returns with updates. Additional security on your accounts. They can't access anything now. The following morning, Jenna calls as I sip coffee in my kitchen, the mug warm against my palms. Judge granted the restraining order. Clear pattern of emotional and financial harassment. They can't come within 500 feet of your work or home. Relief floods me, knees weakening until I sit. That afternoon, Aunt Maxine calls again. Your cousin Rebecca canceled bridge with your mother. Couldn't look her in the eye after what she did. Dominoes fall. Uncle Stephen removes them from holiday rotations. Grandmother's friend declines dinner. Nolan's drinking escalates, whispers say as Kendra moves to her parents. His stability crumbles with her departure. When the eviction notice hits their mailbox, reality bites. I trace my holding company's embossed letterhead. The cottage, once their hold on me, now mine, purchased when taxes overwhelmed them. Relatives' calls trickle in, laced with false worry. We heard you're unstable, one says, echoing mother's script. I document those too, adding to my spreadsheet, each entry fortifying my resolve. Kendra texts once, a simple, thinking of you, but I don't reply yet, weighing the risk. Thomas emails confirmations, accounts locked, loans severed. Jenna forwards the order, it's legalese a shield. Aunt Maxine brings more files, her support a quiet revolution. For the first time, I'm not alone in this fight. Building defenses not just against them, but for the life I deserve. A week later, on Wednesday, the morning sun gleams across the polished granite lobby of my office building, casting long shadows that dance with the flow of colleagues rushing in. I've walked these doors hundreds of times, badge in hand, but today feels charged, like the air before a storm. Security guards Stan and Miguel exchange glances as my parents enter behind Pastor Williams, their expressions a mask of contrition. Mother's camel hair coat hangs askew, her hair with stray strands escaping its usual perfection. Father stands with uncharacteristic deference, shoulders hunched. The pastor walks between them, Bible clutched like a talisman, his face set in that gentle authority honed from years of sermons and consolations. "Elise," he says, extending a hand I don't take, "your parents thought a neutral presence might help this conversation." "There's nothing neutral about someone who's sat at our Christmas table for 20 years, Pastor." Mother steps forward, voice wavering. "We've been praying about this situation, Elise, about your behavior." The word behavior sparks a quiet laugh from me, surprising even myself. Father speaks up, his commanding tone softened to humility. "The cottage has been in our family for generations. Your grandfather built it with his own hands." Pastor Williams places a hand on my arm. "Forgiveness is divine, Elise. They're still your parents. Bonds transcend disagreements." "Disagreements?" I repeat, heat rising in my neck. "Is that what we call deliberate cruelty now?" Mother glances around the lobby, whispering, "Think about what church people will say. Families shouldn't air difficulties in public. The Thornton girl went through something similar. Everyone's talking." I straighten, a lightness spreading through my chest, unburdened. "I've been promoted to Creative Strategy Director, Pastor," I say, watching his blink of surprise. "Did they mention that? Or that my team landed the Richardson account?" He recovers, congratulating me, but I reach into my portfolio, pulling out 2 envelopes and placing them on the reception desk. "This is the invitation I received, and this is the real one Aunt Maxine showed me." He peers at the dates, confusion creasing his forehead. "They sent the wrong date on purpose, so I wouldn't attend my brother's wedding." The pastor glances between my parents, his certainty wavering. "Sometimes families make difficult choices for peace." I cut him off. "I've spent my life forgiving, turning the other cheek until I'm dizzy. Now I'm living." I lock eyes with him. "Did they tell you about the cottage? How I've paid for it 8 years while they pretended ownership? Or the financial help for Nolan's ventures? Or forgetting to invite me to Thanksgiving but remembering when they needed a new roof?" Mother interjects, tears gathering. "Elise, after all we've sacrificed for you." I face her fully, taller than ever in their presence. "Name one sacrifice for me that wasn't really for Nolan." Silence answers, thick and telling. I hand Father a manila envelope from the desk. "These are the family photos I kept, the ones where I'm cropped out or standing apart. I've held them thinking I'd belong someday." His fingers tremble taking it. "I'm releasing myself from being your daughter. You're free from pretending I matter." "You can't stop being family," Mother says, voice rising. "After all we've sacrificed." "You already said that," I reply, holding her gaze for an example that never comes. Stan steps forward from his post. "Everything all right, Miss Hartman?" "Yes, Stan, my visitors are leaving." "This isn't over," Father says, clutching the envelope. "Actually, it is." I turn to the elevators, not looking back as the doors close on Mother's protests. The lightness in my chest expands, replacing decades of weight. 2 weeks later, news filters through Aunt Maxine. Nolan lost his job, his marriage cracking under strain. I feel distant pity, like watching strangers through fogged glass. The first letter arrives Tuesday. Father's handwriting on the envelope, precise capitals with flourishes. I study it beside my coffee, steam curling between us, finger tracing the seal without breaking it. Inside could be more guilt, demands veiled as obligation, or something new. The choice to open it later is power I've earned. Kendra calls again that evening, her voice steadier but still edged with uncertainty. "I wanted to apologize properly," she says, "for believing Nolan's lies, for not questioning your absence at the wedding." I pace my living room. The city lights twinkling outside. "He said you were jealous, but now I see the truth. He's the one who's always taken without giving." Her words validate what I've known, yet hearing them from her stirs mixed emotions. Why reach out now? Because I'm leaving him, and I think you deserve to know you're not alone in seeing through it. We talk briefly, her sharing glimpses of Nolan's facade crumbling, me offering cautious empathy. It's not alliance yet, but a crack in the isolation. Jenna updates me the next day. The restraining order holds firm, no appeals filed. Thomas confirms all ties severed, my finances a fortress. Aunt Maxine visits with more records, her briefcase a treasure trove of truths. Workplace whispers fade as colleagues see my poise amid the storms. I enforce boundaries not with anger, but quiet strength, screening calls, documenting intrusions, leaning on my network. The disturbances, Nolan's lobby scene, parents' pastor ploy become stepping stones, each one reinforcing my stand. The days following the lobby confrontation blur into a rhythm of quiet victories, each one stacking like stones in a cairn, marking my path forward. Aunt Maxine calls with updates, her voice a steady anchor amid the swirling rumors. "Your cousin Rebecca isn't the only one pulling away," she says, the line crackling slightly. "Uncle Stephen struck them from the holiday list, said he couldn't stomach the hypocrisy." I picture the family grapevine twisting, once a tool for mother's manipulations, now turning against her. Grandmother's oldest friend declines their dinner invitation with a polite but firm note, citing recent revelations. One by one, the alliances they took for granted fray, leaving them isolated in their Tudor home, its manicured hedges no longer a barrier against judgment. Nolan's world unravels faster. Whispers reach me of his increased drinking, late nights at bars where he rants about ungrateful siblings, his architectural visions crumbling under the weight of reality. Kendra confirms it in a tentative email, her words careful but revealing. "He's spiraling, Elise. The job loss was just the start. Creditors calling, friends distancing themselves." She mentions moving back to her parents' house, the diamond ring now tucked away in a drawer, a symbol of promises broken before they could set. I reply briefly, offering no advice but acknowledging her courage, a small bridge I allow to stand without crossing it yet. The eviction notice for the cottage, delivered by certified mail, must have landed like a thunderclap in their living room. I imagine Mother's hands shaking as she opens it, Father's face paling at the 30-day timeline. The embossed letterhead of my holding company, a stark reminder of the transfer they signed in haste. They thought it temporary, a favor from their dutiful daughter. Now it's ironclad. Jenna assures me over coffee, her briefcase bulging with copies. No grounds for contest. The emails Aunt Maxine provided seal it. As consequences unfold, I find myself reflecting in the quiet hours, the city hum outside my window a distant soundtrack. Have I become the villain in their story, the one who shattered the fragile peace? Or am I finally the hero in mine, reclaiming what was taken in subtle thefts over years? The temptation to soften the blow lingers, perhaps extend the eviction by a month, give them time to adjust. But I push it aside. Mercy without accountability would only invite more exploitation, a lesson hard learned from decades of one-sided giving. Thomas calls with financial updates. My portfolio's thriving without the drain of family bailouts, projections showing growth I can invest in myself. Maybe that photography studio I've dreamed of, or a sabbatical to capture landscapes unmarred by obligations. Jenna forwards court filings, no appeals yet, but Mother's lawyer sniffing around, probing for weaknesses that don't exist. They're desperate, she says, but the pattern of harassment is documented. Lobby scenes, unannounced visits, even Nolan's outburst. I nod, though she can't see, my fingers tracing the edge of a family photo I kept despite handing over the envelope. In it, I'm at the edge of the frame, smiling tentatively while they cluster center stage. Releasing those images was symbolic, but this one reminds me of the journey, a talisman against backsliding. Social fallout spreads wider. Church friends whisper during coffee hours, Pastor Williams fielding questions about forgiveness that now point back at my parents. "Everyone's talking," Aunt Maxine reports gleefully. "Your mother's bridge group is down to 3. Nolan's deterioration hits a low when Kendra shares a final update. He's crashing on friends' couches, his car repossessed, the wedding glow faded to ash. Pity stirs, but it's detached, like mourning a character in a book long closed. I proceed with the eviction, signing off on inspections, the cottage's deed in my safe a concrete emblem of independence. Reflections deepen during a solo walk in the park, leaves crunching underfoot, the autumn air crisp with possibility. Did I choose vengeance or justice? The line blurs, but peace settles either way. No more midnight calls for bailouts, no holidays laced with slights. My choices, once reactive, now proactive, shaping a future where I'm central, not peripheral. Thomas meets me for lunch, portfolio in hand. "You're free financially. Recommend diversifying into personal ventures." I smile, ordering salad without glancing at prices, a small luxury. Jenna texts, "Eviction enforced, they're packing." No glee, just closure. Aunt Maxine visits that evening, apple crumble in tow. The family's shifting, some reaching out to you now. I consider it, but boundaries hold. As night falls, I sit with Father's unopened letter, the seal intact, my power in the pause. Consequences unfold not as punishment, but inevitable harvest from seeds they sowed. I sleep soundly, dreams untroubled for the first time in years. The peaceful nights don't last forever, as echoes of the past have a way of creeping back, testing the walls I've built. A few days after the eviction notice lands, my phone rings during a quiet evening at home, the screen lighting up with Pastor William's name. A number I haven't deleted yet, though I'm not sure why. I hesitate, the device vibrating in my hand like a live wire, before answering. His voice comes through warm and measured, the same tone he uses from the pulpit. "Elise, I've been thinking about our conversation in the lobby. Praying about it, really. Your parents are hurting, and I believe there's room for healing if we approach this with open hearts." I lean against the kitchen counter, the cool granite grounding me as I listen to his pleas. Forgiveness as a divine mandate, family bonds that shouldn't be severed over misunderstandings, the importance of turning the other cheek. He mentions church gossip again, how reconciliation would set a powerful example, and urges me to consider a mediated meeting, perhaps at the parsonage, neutral ground. But neutrality feels like a myth now, especially from someone who's witnessed our family dynamics for decades without intervening. "Pastor," I say, my voice calm but firm, "I've forgiven enough to fill a lifetime. What you're asking isn't healing, it's erasure of what they've done." He presses gently, quoting scripture about prodigal returns and merciful fathers, but the words ring hollow against the backdrop of deliberate exclusions and financial drains. I picture him in his study, Bible open, convinced his role is to mend what's broken, unaware or unwilling to see the fractures were intentional. "They're your blood, Elise. God calls us to honor our parents." The plea tugs at old instincts, the part of me conditioned to yield for peace, but I reject it outright. Honor goes both ways, and they've chosen not to extend it. I'm done pretending otherwise. I end the call politely but decisively, the silence afterward feeling like victory, not loss. No more spinning in circles for their approval. This rejection is my stand, a quiet refusal to reopen doors they've slammed shut. To symbolize the release, I gather the few remaining mementos. A faded Christmas card from years ago, a keychain from a family vacation where I was more chaperone than participant, and place them in a small box with the unopened photos I'd kept as backups. I seal it, not with anger but intention, and tuck it into a drawer, out of sight but acknowledged. It's not destruction, but detachment, freeing space for what comes next. Aunt Maxine calls later that night, sensing my mood through the ether. The pastor reached out to me too, fishing for influence. I told him the truth. He's late to the party. Her laugh eases the tension, reminding me of the support I've cultivated, a chosen circle stronger than blood ties. 2 weeks pass in a haze of work triumphs and personal recalibrations, my promotion bringing new challenges that demand focus, not family drama. News of Nolan filters through Aunt Maxine again, her updates delivered over tea at my place, the steam rising like confessions. He's lost his job, the architectural firm, citing performance issues. But whispers suggest his unraveling attitude played a part. His marriage shows deeper cracks. Kendra confides in a brief message that she's filed for separation, the fairy tale wedding album now a relic of deception. I feel a pang of distant sorrow, not for him but for the waste of it all, the golden child tarnished by his own choices. Mother and father, meanwhile, scramble with the cottage packing, their calls to relatives met with cool responses. The social web unraveling thread by thread. The first letter from father arrives on a Tuesday, the envelope heavy in my mailbox, his handwriting a familiar flourish that once signed my school notes. I place it on my desk beside a cooling coffee, studying the seal as if it holds secrets. Curiosity wins this time. I slit it open carefully, the paper crisp. Inside, his words spill out, not the acknowledgement I'd secretly hoped for, but a mix of guilt and demands. "We've made mistakes, but family doesn't abandon each other. Return the cottage, it's our legacy." The pleas echo the pastor's, wrapped in paternal authority, urging forgiveness without accountability. I read it twice, the ink blurring slightly under the lamp, then folded away. No response needed. His attempt at intervention falls flat, another plea I reject by choosing silence. Symbolically, I add it to the box of mementos, closing the lid with a soft click, releasing the hold of his words. Jenna checks in the next day, confirming no legal pushback on the eviction. They're complying, albeit grudgingly. Thomas reports my investments free from parasitic draws. Kendra meets me for coffee, her eyes brighter without the shadow of Nolan, sharing stories that validate my experiences, forging an unexpected bond. As the days unfold, I navigate these lingering attempts at reconciliation with steady resolve. Each rejection reinforcing my freedom, the symbolic releases piling like shed skins, leaving me lighter, ready for what's ahead. A year later, the morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my lake house office, casting golden patterns across the hardwood floor that once symbolized my family's grip, but now feels like a warm embrace. The cottage, renamed in my mind as a sanctuary rather than a burden, has transformed under my care. Fresh paint on the walls, a garden blooming with wildflowers I planted myself, each petal a testament to growth without obligation. My photographs line the shelves. Misty landscapes from weekend hikes, sunsets over forgotten trails, moments captured when I stopped waiting for invitations that never came and started creating my own. No family portraits here, just evidence of a life lived on my terms. The cameras click a rhythm of self-discovery. The air carries the scent of fresh coffee and lake breeze, a far cry from the sterile office where I once armored myself against intrusions. My phone rings, and for the first time in years, my shoulders don't tense at the sound. The vibration a gentle nudge rather than a threat. Elise Hartman, I answer, tucking it between ear and shoulder as I arrange presentation notes, the papers rustling softly. It's a potential client, drawn to my boutique marketing firm's approach to authentic storytelling, their voice enthusiastic over the line. We discuss philosophies, building brands that resonate without facade, much like the authenticity I've demanded in my own life. As the call wraps, I glance at the wall calendar behind my desk, where red marks once denoted family birthdays I celebrated alone or holidays laced with slights. Now, personal milestones stretch across the months. A half marathon in August to test my limits, a photography workshop in September to hone my eye, a week in Montana under big sky country. Just because the vastness calls to me like a promise of expansion. The mail arrives with its usual shuffle through the brass slot, the sound muffled by the rug I added for comfort. Among business envelopes sits a thick cream one, my name in flowing calligraphy, echoing the invitation that started this unraveling. My heart stutters briefly before steadying. It's from cousin Rachel, another wedding on the horizon. I run my finger along the embossed edge, memories of bitter disappointment surfacing but fading quickly, like ripples on the lake outside. The date checks out this time, no deceit in the details, and the RSVP card includes a handwritten note. It wouldn't be the same without you, Elise. Please come. For a moment, I weigh the old expectations, dropping plans, selecting the perfect gift, bracing for questions about my single childless life, but the new me checks my calendar instead. The wedding overlaps my main photography retreat, waves crashing against rocky shores in my mind's eye. I pen a genuine response on fine stationery explaining my prior commitment and wishing them joy, then select a thoughtful gift online, not for approval but because giving freely brings its own quiet pleasure. That evening, Aunt Maxine arrives first for our monthly dinner, her famous apple crumble steaming in a dish towel, the cinnamon scent filling the kitchen like a hug. Thomas follows with a bottle of wine he saved for occasions like this, his wire-rimmed glasses fogging slightly from the warmth. Jenna rushes in last, briefcase slung over her shoulder, apologizing for court running late, her laugh bright and unburdened. We gather around the dining table I refinished myself, plates clinking as we serve, conversation flowing from work triumphs to shared dreams. 1 year, Thomas raises his glass, the wine catching the candlelight. 1 year of boundaries that would make a fortress envious. Aunt Maxine adds, eyes crinkling, to finding family and friendship and strength and starting over. We clink, laughter bubbling up, rusty but real, a sound I've nurtured like a fragile plant. Later, after they've gone, the house settling into peaceful quiet, I sit at my desk and open Father's latest letter, the envelope yielding easily under my thumb. Unlike early ones heavy with demands, this acknowledges harm without seeking absolution. I failed you. You deserved better. Simple words, but they land softly, stirring not reconciliation, but acceptance. I place it in the wooden box with others, not displayed or destroyed, just part of a story I no longer rewrite daily. Beside me rests a brochure for a mentoring program helping young women navigate career challenges with the wisdom I've gained through fire. My Portugal travel itinerary sits beneath. A solo journey dreamed since college, cobblestone streets, ocean views, time to wander without anchors. Both represent futures on my terms, choices blooming from the ashes of old ties. As I close the box, questions whisper. Does healing demand reconciliation, or simply peace with the past? Is family blood or those who cherish your heart? Some bridges burn for reason, others rebuild stronger. I've chosen the promise of what could be over familiar comfort. And in this sanctuary, with the lake lapping gently outside, I feel whole. In the quiet expanse of time that followed, as seasons turned and the lake cottage became more than a refuge, it evolved into a true home, where every corner whispered stories of resilience rather than regret. I found myself reflecting on the gentle unraveling of old wounds, allowing them to heal in their own soft rhythm, without the rush of forced mending. The days stretched longer, filled with the subtle joys of solitary walks along the shore, where the water's murmur reassured me that solitude could be a companion, not an enemy, and that the absence of chaotic family demands opened space for deeper connections with those who chose to stay. Like Aunt Maxine with her enduring warmth, Thomas with his steady guidance, and Jenna with her fierce loyalty, forming a tapestry of support woven from mutual respect rather than obligation. Letters from father arrived sporadically, each one a tentative step toward acknowledgement, not absolution. And I read them under the golden light of evening, feeling a distant compassion that didn't compel response, but allowed me to release the last threads of resentment, folding them away like autumn leaves drifting to the ground. Pursuits once sidelined, photography capturing fleeting light on waves, mentoring young professionals through their uncertainties, travels to distant horizons where the sky met the sea in endless possibility, blossomed into anchors of purpose, reminding me that worth isn't earned through sacrifice, but claimed through living authentically. As the sun dipped below the tree line one crisp evening, painting the water in hues of rose and amber, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea steaming in my hands, the world fading into twilight's embrace, and whispered to the gathering stars that true family emerges not from shared blood, but from hearts that hold each other with care. And in that whisper, peace settled like a soft blanket over the years ahead, promising horizons unbound.